Nigeria remains a compelling destination for tech organizations and startups seeking expansion opportunities. With its large population, burgeoning tech scene, and evolving economic landscape, the country presents a unique mix of challenges and prospects. Currently hosting a range of Africa's tech unicorns, earlier, Arise anchor, that's New Oyelowo, discussed this with tech expert Buki Wonder to speak on why Nigeria remains a favored destination for tech startups and organizations.
When I look at this, I look at players like, MTN that has come into the market here. And, I look at how they've come in, they've dominated, and they've even maybe done better than some of their counterparts, local counterparts. And so when I look at opportunities for tech startups, I believe that Nigerian tech startups can do the same in Canada. We have an inclusive lens. We have unique challenges that we can channel. We have a grit that is needed. So with opportunities like that, you get funding support when you have emerging technologies, when you're building within the health space. A lot that people have done, and some Nigerians have been able to successfully do that. Not a lot, but we have that opportunity. Funding that you look at, which doesn't exist in Africa or even some other countries in the world, exists in Canada. So when people are thinking about how do I scale my business, how do I build and be competitive on the global scale, then they should be looking to Canada, because there's funding. Funding starts from about $10,000 to about $750,000. Within the very first 2 years of your startup, you can access up to 500,000 Canadian dollars, used for human resources, marketing, product development, and so much more. And imagine now taking that and putting it into your startup that you don't have. One of the biggest things that startups face as a challenge is funding. As we all know, it's the number 2. So if you can have that sorted using the Canadian landscape, I think that that's an amazing opportunity startups should not pass up on.
Oh, very good, Buki. Now, it's interesting you mentioned the word funding, but what about those who don't have the technical background or knowledge, as it were, but they would like to thrive in the tech space in Canada? What kind of hurdles will they face regarding this, and what's the way out for them, especially when it comes to training, as it were?
So the tech space right now, there's so many funding available, not just in terms of funding for tech companies, but also to grow up tech enthusiasts who want to get into the tech space. So even if you don't have funding, if you're able to move to a space like that, you do have access to, getting some training done to get there. And you should keep in mind that tech is not just about coding. Coding is just, it's one of those spaces that is even being replaced by so many other ways right now. So there are aspects to technology that isn't about coding. I'm a non-technical founder. I do have a CTO, and I don't know how to code, but I'm able to thrive there because you're able to acquire knowledge, get access to accelerators to cover some of the gaps that you need, and you can also collaborate with other people that are technical. So even if you're not technical, can you collaborate? There's so many technical people that could be of value to you if you utilize them to actually either grow your startup or even access training that could help you land a job within the tech space.
All right, Buki. Now, from your observation so far, what has been the response from Nigerians on these tech opportunities in Canada and more, as it were?
I think it's been quite an eye-opener for people with conversations even that I have been having with people are like, oh, I didn't even know that these opportunities exist, because everyone looks to the US, to the United States when they think about having a branch office outside of Nigeria. In North America, they look to the US. But with conversations that are happening, people are able to see that actually Canada is another equivalent that is actually even better for startup, because you can come in here, spend the next 2 to 4 years building the foundation of your startup, and then branching out even to the US without closing your Canadian startup. Even people that are in the US right now that moved there are now realizing I have access to all of this support ecosystem, funding, and structure that does not exist in the US, that I can actually now start up a branch office. So people have been, there's that enlightenment, there's just that light bulb moment that is going on for people. And it's exciting to see, because as someone who is playing and one of the very first few within the tech space as a Nigerian in Calgary, I'm looking forward to having more people join me in this journey.
Very good. Now, I would like you to reflect back. What are the likely immigration hurdles, tech enthusiasts will likely face, in their quest to move into that space in Canada from here?
So I'll speak to the startups specifically who are on that startup journey. I think one of the biggest hurdle is really being able to figure out the Canadian immigration in terms of the business, because the tech startup falls under the business immigration. So there are nuances to how business immigration is done, and it's important to understand the place of simple things like business plan. Sometimes a lot of startups would just start and just say, I have an idea, launch an MVP, without putting sometimes the structure that is required. A lot of structure, they might run into those loopholes, refusals, because they've not put in certain structures even into their business, like having a business plan. What's your 5-year forecast? What are you, what's your go-to market strategy? These are important. People just think, oh, I just have a product. No, it goes beyond that. They want to see what's your market potential. When you do come here, can you contribute to the society? Those are things that needs to be documented and needs to be a part of your application. So those are the biggest hurdles that people are going to face when they're putting this application together to move there. And then in terms of talent, on the talent side, for people who have tech skills and may want to move, the biggest hurdle those people would face, would be they're competing with people from all over the world, India and China specifically, in terms of this talent. And sometimes, a lot of times, we have people that are sometimes from this nationality who are also given opportunities to their own citizens. So you might be competing, and you might just not be competitive enough, not because you don't have the talent, but because the company wants people from certain specific regions. So there are so many orders and things that you can't even do about anything about that beyond you. But I think putting in the skills, looking at fairs that exist, there are so many virtual career fairs for tech, and really owning in on your skills is going to help to set you apart in that area.
Indeed, Buki. Now, overall, what advice would you give to, those showing enthusiasm for this gesture regarding tech startups and, other relative narratives among that space?
I would definitely say go for it, because I would always use myself as an example. Having come from a no tech background with no tech degree, being a solo founder, and pivoted my business into the tech space, being in the space for just over a year and haven't received support funding, so I'm not talking theoretically, I'm talking practically. The supports that I've received, the ecosystem that rallied around, it is very possible for you as a non-technical founder. Do not count yourself out. Your ideas are valid, and you just need to look at how can I build my very first MVP. You do not need a lot of money to get that done. You need just the right amount of people that you can partner up with to build and to get that. And before you even start thinking about just an idea, you need to validate that. Are people going to pay for what I'm building? What's the market demand? How is that done? And again, the sky is the limit for anyone who is looking to venture into this kind of space. It is possible. You just have to be willing to put in the work to get the results that you're looking for.